Welcome to Struggle TV. In a previous program, I pointed out how the left, the mainstream left in India, that is to say Communist Party of India and Communist Party of India Marxist, CPM, they simply betrayed the principles of internationalism, socialism to lend support to the war effort initiated by Modi regime against Pakistan. Likewise, while the left in Pakistan is really marginalized, however, sections of the left, they lent support to the Pakistan military, the Pakistani state, and betraying the principles of internationalism and socialism. In my previous program, I pointed out that I will try to analyze why at least the Pakistani sections of left did this. I won't comment really on the Indian left because I think there are better informed comrades on the Indian side who are already analyzing it and criticizing the Indian left for betraying the principles of socialism on the question of war and peace. Well, in the case of Pakistan, I think there are three factors to be taken into account to understand this betrayal of a principled position. First, I think the petty bourgeois class character of the left, which took this second internationalist kind of position on war. Secondly, this part of the left, it has reduced its so-called left politics to social media. And thirdly, I would argue that the reason behind this betrayal was the fact that these left groups, they function like cults around an individual rather than democratic functioning organizations. So let us first talk about the petty bourgeois character of these so-called left leaders and organizations. The problem with petty bourgeois leadership is that they are eclectic, they are adventurous, they are opportunist. One day they are taking one extreme position, the other day they are taking another extreme position. One day they will be telling their fan club or followers or call whatever you call them, the so-called members of their cult groups, that look, revolution is around the corner. China is really defeating the US imperialism. It will radically transform the world and it will transform Pakistan as well. There will be revolution. In another 5-10 years, everything gonna happen in a sort of miraculous way. Very next day, they're very pessimistic. They would tell you, okay, there is no hope in Pakistan. We better leave this country. Find a place outside of this country. Go to Europe. Go to the USA. You are wasting your time in this country. There is no hope for resistance in this country. Well, this adventurist, this extremist, this eclectic character has been beautifully explained by Leon Trotsky in a very famous pamphlet that appeared at the start of 20th century titled Intellectuals and Socialism. If you really want to understand the political, cultural, and economic explanation for this eclectic, opportunistic character of the petty bourgeois, I strongly suggest you read this pamphlet. And it has also been translated to Urdu if you want to read it, and if you can read Urdu, it is there. Regarding the opportunism of this sort of left that I am referring to, it was visible actually even before this war. For instance, for about 2 years, they were exploiting religion for their politics. One of them, who is quite known on social media, a kind of left celebrity or used to be left celebrity, I wonder if they will be referred to as the left in future. He went to meet engineer Muhammad Ali Mirza, another noted YouTube mullah with lot of followings. Sections of the left was taking very chauvinistic position on the question of Balochistan. Some of them declared Balochistan Liberation Army as a terrorist outfit in line with the state characterization of the Balochistan Liberation Army, the BLA. Well, I don't have time to go into the details about the characterization of BLA and the Balochistan question, but at least it really annoyed some young progressive people, both in Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa that I know of, and other parts of Pakistan which are seen as periphery in this country. Another problem with the terrorist tag attached to BLA is the fact that not only you support the state, but also you whitewash the actual problem in Balochistan. The actual problem is not BLA. The actual problem lies elsewhere. It is the continuous negation of the right to self-determination, or, a continuous colonial style or neo-colonial style exploitation of the province of Balochistan or the region of Balochistan, which has led to at least 5 militant movements in that part of Pakistan, and the present one perhaps the longest and the most scary one, dangerous one for many people in the region and beyond. Well, the second point I wanted to highlight was the reduction of their so-called left politics to social media. Well, if you reduce your politics to social media, then your politics also becomes what the aesthetics of social media rules. What is the aesthetics of social media? There are many aspects that can be highlighted, but I would like to highlight 3 aspects. The aesthetics of social media implies ephemerality. You are visible for a very little moment, for a maximum 24 hours. Even if something goes viral, it doesn't stay viral more than 24 hours, or maybe 3 days, 2 days. That's maximum, usually few hours, and then you disappear. This ephemerality requires visibility, non-stop, continuous visibility. When you are no more viral, you have to do something new, do something even trivial so that you attract visibility. Of course, another aspect of the social media aesthetics is triviality. Usually, triviality requires no big consciousness, no big knowledge. Just swear at someone and it will be received by everyone. But if you are talking about philosophy, if you are talking about economy, the audience requires time, knowledge, and engagement. It requires a mental labor. In the case of triviality, there is no mental labor involved. Hence, ephemerality is, replaced with or fought with visibility. Visibility leads to triviality. And finally, narcissism. If you are visible, if you are likable, if you are getting likes, if you are getting comments, it really satisfies your ego, your narcissism. And since these are cult organizations, my third point, these organizations are led by individual cults, the so-called general secretaries, the leaders. Sometimes they are called president of the party, other times, and usually in Pakistan, the culture of general secretary title. So this visibility, this social media viralness, it brings them, feelings of greatness, joy, and it satisfies their narcissism. But also, it is important to understand why these cult-like leaders appear in Pakistan. It has happened in Europe as well. Initially, and I again refer to Leon Trotsky's pamphlet, Intellectuals and Socialism, where he points out that in the student movements, in trade union movement, even in the socialist movement, initially, and feminist movement later on, which Trotsky doesn't point out because the feminist movement really picked sail afterwards. The leadership was largely in the hands of petty bourgeoisie. Only when the working class asserts itself, organizes itself in a big way, it produces its own leaders, both in the trade union movement as well as in the big left working class parties. In Pakistan, unfortunately, trade unionism is very poor. Hardly 1% of the working class is organized in trade unions. The left, as I pointed out, is very weak. Hence, this structural weakness of the working class, both in terms of trade union and organized left parties, necessitates this kind of cult leaders. Another factor that leads to the production of these cult leaders is their petty bourgeois background, already pointed out. They belong to affluent families. They go to the UK or the USA for their higher education, bring back with some fancy degrees. They speak nice, posh, Cambridge, Oxford style English. All of this carries an aura in the context of India and Pakistan, which were colony of the Brits for about 200 years. They have all the time on their disposal. They do not need to work. Also, from their birth, since they belong to affluent families, they are used to order others. There is an army of domestic workers who attends them. They go to private schools and universities where the teachers should put up with them even when they are saying nonsense things, because, this is how the neoliberal education does to the teaching. The teacher's job is to please the students, especially when they come from affluent families. And they come from affluent families to, fancy private schools in India and Pakistan and fancy private universities even in the West. At least, they are private for the people in third world because a majority cannot even think of going there. So these number of things lead to the creation of these cult-like leaders and cult-like political organizations around them. When you have a cult-like organization, there is no democracy. There is no one asking, questioning the so-called leader why you are taking a certain position. Many times the so-called full-timers, they economically depend on these cult leaders. And then beyond their personal wealth, they have also access to global visibility, NGOs money and whatnot. So usually they have enough resources to employ a couple of full-timers here and there in big towns who keep promoting their so-called leader on social media and whatever small activities they can do. Exactly because of these characteristics, these features, for about a year, I've been calling these so-called left groups as the PTI of the Pakistani left. PTI, that is to say, Pakistan Justice Party, which is built around, organized around the cult of former cricketer and Prime Minister Imran Khan. You won't find any big difference between the PTI and these so-called left groups in Pakistan. The only difference, of course, that PTI is rather popular in, parts of Pakistan, especially two provinces, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Punjab, as well as Karachi, the largest city in Pakistan. But these cult groups of the left, they have no social basis beyond social media. In short, I think a combination of these three factors is offering some explanation for this kind of opportunistic position they took not only during this so-called India-Pakistan war. I avoid the term war because it wasn't really a war. It was a war-like situation which the two states create every 7-8 years. But this also explains the previous opportunism. One of them was to exploit religion, as I pointed out, or their position on Jammu and Kashmir, Balochistan, and other national ethnic questions in this state called Pakistan. But perhaps this will also help understand the future opportunistic, eclectic positions and actions they're going to take. Thanks for staying with me. Thanks for watching Struggle TV.